Right, so we go ahead and get started then. The date is June 21st, 2022. This is a meeting of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. And we continue to meet using the WebEx platform. So whether you're joining us on the web or by teleconferencing portion of that format, we thank you for participating. For those of you that are in the chambers and wish to address the board under unscheduled, please fill out a speaker's card and we'll take you in the order that the clerk receives it. Those online, please use the raise your hand feature on the web or get someone's attention if you are teleconferencing. Each vote today will be verbal or voice vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. So after we get a motion in a second, we will have a verbal roll call vote by district. So with that, in order to establish quorum, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Here.
Richard Valley,
Here.
Doug Verboon,
Here.
Craig Peterson,
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have all members present. Thank you very much. We've established quorum. We will be able to conduct business. Now, if I can ask you all to please rise as we invite Pastor Arthur Fox of the New Hope Orthodox Presbyterian Church forward to deliver the invocation this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. I want to read a word of scripture for Jeremiah 17:5-8. Thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength, whose heart departs from the Lord. For he shall be like a shrub in the desert and shall not see when good comes, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in the salt land which is not inhabited. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, and whose hope is the Lord. For he shall be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its roots by the river, and will not fear when the heat comes. But its leaf will be green, and will not be anxious in the year of drought, nor will cease from yielding fruit. Let's pray. Almighty God, Lord of heaven and earth, we thank you for this new day in which to serve you and glorify you. And we're reminded by the scripture of the coming heat of the week, and pray that you keep us safe and that you would provide water and help for our farmers. Lord, you've made all things, and you've created us with the ability to see and use them for your glory. May we use this day, and especially this time in this day, to honor you from the heart by glorifying you by our faithfulness, by your grace. In particular, we pray for this meeting this morning, that we might be enabled to listen to one another, and that those whom we've elected to office may glorify you by their diligent care for Kings County and Hanford. We thank you that we're no longer locked down, and thank you for these leaders assembled here to serve you by serving us, their humble constituents. Grant them wisdom and patience, and grant that we whom they supervise might be submissively heedful of their instructions and keep them in prayer. Bless also the administrative staff and give them wisdom in their work this morning. We ask all of these things in the beautiful and marvelous name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Fox. Now, please join me in a moment of silence for retired Sheriff Don Bingston, who passed away, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Now, please join me as we honor America by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with peace and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of this board. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. Does the clerk have a record of anyone that would like to address the board at this time?
The first speaker is Gerald Mercer, and all of the board have received correspondence from him as well. Go ahead, Mr. Mercer.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate the opportunity to come this morning and talk. I don't have anything to vote on, but what I'd like to bring to you is some information that I feel very personal about. We all know February 24th, Russia invaded Ukraine, and my wife and I'm 83, she's 89, we're sitting on the couch saying, this is a terrible thing. But what can we do about it? We're a couple old people, our ship has sailed, we're on our cruise to our final destination. We don't have any money, we can't do anything for these people. And day after day, got worse and worse. And Ukrainian people were having to leave their homes, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. What can we do to help? We're a couple of old people. We can't do anything, but I had enough. I said, I got to stand up and I got to do something. Even if I fail, I'm going to do something for these people. What skill do I have? I don't have any skills. But in my past, in the corporation I worked for, and I had a group of junior golfers that I was helping, and with them, I put on golf tournaments and I raised funds. When you do it for a corporation, it's easy. They have money behind them. You got their funds and you can use it. The juniors, they didn't have anything, but they had a lot of enthusiasm, and their parents were really wanting to be good for their kids, and so they were behind me. Here I am. I'm looking for people to get behind me to maybe put a drop in a bucket. You know, we can't bring them all here. There's over 4 million of them, but if we could help one person or one family. And it's important to me because I remember something from World War II. When Hitler invaded Poland and all those countries in Europe, there was a young woman who was studying to be an electrical engineer. She had to leave her home through no fault of her own. She came to America. And she happened to meet a young soldier who was my Uncle Shannon. They fell in love. He had come out of boot camp and he was waiting to be assigned for his duty station, which turned out to be the Aleutian Islands. He fought World War II in the Aleutians. And he brought my Aunt Margaret, the woman that he married, to live with us while he was off to war. I'm 3 years old, 4 years old. The only thing I knew is there's a strange woman sleeping on our couch. And so, we'll fast forward. The war was over. My Uncle Shannon come home, took his bride, and they went off. Well, my Aunt Margaret, with her electrical background, went to work in the airplane industry. Later, she got into the aerospace part of it with McDonnell Douglas, and she worked on the space shuttle. Now, when we think about refugees, we think about somebody that we have to take care of. And what I want to change your minds about that is sometimes there's refugees that can help us. We've all seen the big plane flying with the space shuttle on top of it. Well, my Aunt Margaret was in the plane. Wherever the space shuttle went, she went. And she became a very vital part of our aerospace industry. And so it's personal to me that I do what I can to help a family, a person, to relocate because they're here because they don't want to. And you talk to most of them, they say, oh, we want to go back. When the war is over, we want to go back and establish our homes back where we came from. But in the meantime, I'm doing what I can. Fortunately, I've talked to several groups, and the Hanford Rotary Club have taken me under their wing and established the Ukrainian Family Relief Fund, so that the funds that we, if we're fortunate enough to get them, that's a place for that money to go. And then when we get enough, we'll find where the best place to put that money is that will help the greater good. And so I'm putting on a golf tournament. And I have information out there, and I'm going to be putting a banner across the street. I'm going to put posters in, and I'm going to hope that we get some people out to play in our tournament, donate raffle prizes, sponsor holes, volunteer to help. And so this is information that I wanted to bring to the county And I appreciate the time you've given me. And I think that'll do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being there, Mr. Mercer.
Just for the record, I already donated, I'm gonna sponsor 3 holes myself, and I'll donate to the raffle too as well. So I encourage anybody and everybody to join in on this.
I'll do is a hole as well. I'll contact you, Mr. Mercer.
I appreciate it. The administrative assistants have been wonderful to me. They've taken the information. I think they've given me a packet to look through.
Yeah, it's a short time. It's only 6 weeks away, so we gotta get on it.
Very good. Thank you.
Supervisors.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, you have another?
Sponsor hole.
I do. The next speaker is Rebecca Bell.
Thank you. Good morning, Rebecca.
Hi. I have a question. I was just reading in the news this morning in regards to the Supreme Court that they are sponsoring or they're actually accessing for the religious schools to receive fundings because it's, even though it's privately run, but it's still receiving public funds. And so they now have access to it. When my daughter, she was younger, she went to Western Christian. And it kind of, things dried up and she she ended up only being the only girl in school or in her class range. And so we said, we'll just take her to public school. Plus it wasn't feasible for us to be able to afford it. Now, has anything like that come across your desks yet? Or?
No.
Okay. I know this is in Maine, but
Yeah.
once it starts, then maybe somebody else would do it. But also, on another thing, the original thing that I wanted to speak in regards to parking, handicap parking, is that the business owners or is that based on the location of where that parking spot is?
Mitchell, you want to talk about, not to put you on the spot or anything, but
Yeah, so any specific question in general or just?
Yeah, it's because it's in front of Ravens on 14th and there's a dip down in there for handicapped. But they also, the way that the parking is done, it makes it accessible for everybody. So it defeats the purpose of having that dip for handicap use if you're allowing regular cars to be able to park there and it's blocking the path to where people that do need it, they have to park next door at the convenience store in order to get access to handicap
Yeah, so
parking.
If it's not specifically designated as a handicap parking stall
Mhm.
and there is a dip down,
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the ADA or accessible ramp
Okay.
for disabled people to use.
Okay.
So it would depend also on the number of lots. For every 25 regular parking stalls, you're supposed to have 1 handicap, and that stall is supposed to be van accessible. And now when it's in front of a store like that, I'd have to double check on the standards of
Yeah,
the code.
it's more in front of the salon, but there is nothing designated that we see that other than the convenience store handicap. And if that gets done, then we have to go further when we want to be able to visit Ravens. So we didn't see any other parking for handicap.
If anything, we can look into it.
yeah, we'll check into it.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mitchell. Thank you, Rebecca.
That's all the speaker cards that I have. I did not receive any other written correspondence and I don't see anyone online with their hands raised.
All right, last call. Anybody under unscheduled? See no one come forward, we'll move on the agenda. And the next item is, Diane, would you like to report out on a closed session that was held on June 14th?
Yes, I would. The board took no reportable action in closed session on June 14th.
Good, thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. The next item is approval of the minutes from the June 14th meeting.
So
Yep.
moved, Verboen.
Moved by Verboen,
Okay.
seconded by Fagundes. Thank you very much. Additional questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen, Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show the minutes stand approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much. Moving to the consent calendar, all items under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted at the action of one board member. At the request of any board member, any item may be removed and made part of the regular agenda. 2 items on the consent calendar this morning, one from probation dealing with a MOU, and from Public Works, taking some final map track information.
There are no questions or comments, so it may move for approval.
Second, Verboen.
Moved by Fagundes, seconded by Verboen. Additional questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show the consent calendar stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much. Next item, we'll move on to regular agenda items. And the first item under regular agenda items this morning comes from Behavioral Health and a discussion on the Mental Health Services Act fiscal year 2021. Anchang, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I'm Chung Perry with Kings County Behavioral Health. This morning, department is seeking approval of the Mental Health Services Act fiscal year 2021 annual update to be submitted to the Department of Healthcare Services and a Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission. MHSA is one of the largest funding for the department, and all MHSA funded counties are to submit an annual update report for each fiscal year. The primary goal of the MHSA fund is to provide services and support for those in need of mental health services and their families, consistent with a strength-based approach and client-centered treatment plan for those who are unserved and underserved. One major component of the report is a community program and planning process. Under the Welfare and Institution Code, a CPP process is state mandated, community collaboration process that is used to assess the current capacity, define the population to be served, and determine strategies to provide effective MHSA-funded programs. To develop a comprehensive process, the department contracted with the research firm EvalCorp. The CPP process involves participation from various community groups and stakeholders. From various surveys and interviews, EvalCorp was able to aggregate the data to provide an assessment of the programs, identifying if they're culturally competent, wellness and recovery focus, and integrated service experience for consumers and their families. The second component is the program and expenditure update. It provides update and service accomplishment to the adopted current MHSA 3-year program and expenditure plan. MHSA is made up of 5 components: community service and support, prevention and early intervention, innovation, capital, facility, and technology need, and workforce education and training. MHSA funds department's 3 largest direct service mental health services, and it also allows an department to outreach various and unique types of community outreach to community. In fiscal year 2020-2021, there were 17 mandated MHSA programs totaling over $8.9 million. As a part of the required process, the 30-day public comment period, which began on April 23rd through May 23rd, upon completion of the public comment period, the Behavioral Health Advisory Board held a public hearing on May 23rd, 2022, to receive any final public comments. There were no comments both from public comment period and at the public hearing, and the plan was approved by the advisory boards. A copy of the MHSA fiscal year 2020-2021 annual update is filed with the clerk to the board and can be also be available at Behavioral Health website, www.kcbh.org. If you have any question, I can answer any question you may have.
Very good, Anchang. Thank you very much. Questions,
Move for
comments?
approval. Second.
Who's the second?
Valley.
Valley. Moved by Fagundes, seconded by Valley. Additional questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show that item stands approved in favor. 5 in favor. Thank you very much, Anchang. Thank you. Thank all the behavioral health staff for being here to be able to answer any questions too. Thank you. The next item comes from, or the next two items come from Human Resources. Carolyn, you want to kick off the discussion on a side letter agreement with the Deputy Sheriff's Association?
Yes, good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Carolyn Least, Principal Personnel Analyst with Human Resources. Staff is seeking approval for the side letter with the Deputy Sheriff's Association. The memorandum of understanding between the county and the Deputy Sheriff's Association was approved with a term beginning July 1st of 2021, which included a reopener to discuss the longevity pay. Negotiations began on December 22nd, 2021, and the parties reached an agreement which was ratified by the DSA membership. The longevity pay, if approved, would become effective June 13th, 2022, the beginning of pay period 13-2022. Employees who have completed 10 years of continuous full-time service with the county in an allocated position shall, in addition to their salary, receive longevity pay in the amount of 3%. The cost of the longevity pay for the DSA for the remainder of the fiscal year is approximately $4,761 and will be absorbed in the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's budgets. The cost for year two is anticipated to be approximately $127,506. However, the cost could be higher dependent upon anticipated CalPERS retirement rate increases and Social Security costs with higher salaries implemented in fiscal year 2022-2023. Staff recommends the Board of Supervisors authorize the County Administrative Officer to sign the side letter of agreement with the Deputy Sheriff's Association for longevity pay beginning June 13th, 2022. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Carolyn. Questions, comments?
No move.
Moved by Fagundes,
Second, Verboen.
seconded by Verboen. Appreciate that.
Can I comment,
Additional
Mr.
questions,
Chairman?
comments?
Just a quick comment.
Yes.
Just wanted to, I don't think that this should just breeze by like that. I think that it should at least be noted that that was a lot of good work, especially coming out of the Deputy Sheriff's Association and their former president, Sergeant Nate Ferrier, on this issue. Obviously, this is something he relayed they were very passionate about. We know Sergeant Ferrier was very passionate about it, and I believe it's a good step in the right direction. And just the way the Board of Supervisors worked, the Deputy Sheriff's Association on this is positive. It's good fiscal responsibility, but also showing appreciation to the hardworking men and women in public safety. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show that item stands approved, 5 in favor. Nate, you want to, Ferry, or you want to say something now that it's official? Again, thank you. State your name for the record and then continue with your remarks.
Nate Ferrier from the KCDSA. Chairman and board members, I want to thank you for this historic vote. And I use the word historic because it's never been done before. In my career, we've tried to get this many times, and you're the first board to make it happen. And I think it shows incredible wisdom and foresight to, and the value that you guys have for the long-term employee and for law enforcement as a whole. And on behalf of my members, we say thank you very much. And I also want to thank Ed Hill, Carolyn Least, and Henny Ring when she was here for their hard work in the negotiation room to help make this happen. So with that, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Carolyn, would you like to continue and talk about the salary resolution?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Staff is seeking approval for an updated salary resolution. The salary resolution is updated periodically to reflect various changes, including classification and compensation changes, additions and or deletions of positions. This update includes miscellaneous additions and deletions, classification activity approved by the Board of Supervisors since the last salary resolution update, which was on December 27th, 2021, an adjustment to salary band 2 from 12,000 monthly to 16,500 monthly to a new band of 12,000 monthly to 17,000 monthly, and reflects a 3% cost of living increase for all unrepresented management, appointed department heads, and 3 elected officials, the assessor, clerk, recorder, district attorney, and sheriff. Pursuant to ordinance number 690, approved on May 14, 2019, the Board of Supervisors set their salary and compensation as a percentage of the Superior Court judges' salaries. The state has not approved a salary increase for the Superior Court judges for the next fiscal year. Accordingly, a salary resolution will be brought back to reflect the Board of Supervisors' new monthly rate if changes are necessary. This proposed salary increase and effective date would be consistent with the increase in effective date of several bargaining units under current contracts. The fiscal impact for the unrepresented management increases, including the elected officials' positions, which mentioned before were assessor, clerk, recorder, district attorney, and sheriff, is approximately I can't even say it right now, $776,120. The unrepresented management 3% increase was included in the fiscal year 2022-2023 adopted budget in the amount of $755,527. The elected officials' positions were not included in the fiscal year 2022 budget, which cost $20,593. Staff recommends that the board approve the salary resolution, which reflects recommended and previously authorized classification and salary changes and the adjustment of salary band 2, and approve a 3% cost of living increase for unrepresented management, including appointed department heads and 3 elected officials, assessor, clerk, recorder, district attorney, and sheriff, effective July 11th, 2022, pay period 15/2022. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Very good. Thank you, Carolyn. Questions, comments? Supervisor Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick comment. Thank you for going out of your way a couple of times for public clarification that this does not include the Board of Supervisors. In the past, this has caused confusion and incorrect headlines on the board voting themselves a raise. And so that's not something that's happening today. This is a board looking at the hardworking folks here at Kings County and seeing how inflation and gas prices and everything overall is affecting everybody. So appreciate your hard work and for you and your staff as well, and administration staff for giving the board this opportunity today to make a decision. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? This is an action item. Chair will entertain a motion.
For both of them, Mr. Chairman?
Correct.
This is both. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to make the motion to approve as presented on this agenda item B1 and 2, A and B.
Second, Verboen.
Moved by Valley, seconded by Verboen. Additional questions, comments, or clarifications? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
The item stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The next item comes from Information Technology. Consider discussion on the agreement with Accurate Controls. John Devlin, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chairman, rest of the board. The item before you today is for the maintenance and service agreement with Accurate Controls. The county has a maintenance contract with Accurate Controls currently, and they do all the video surveillance and the access control for the jail. This new agreement is going to cover a 3-year term. It is a sole source vendor. It's because it's the same vendor that installed the equipment originally, so it's their equipment. Well, it's our equipment, but it's their brand. It exceeds the purchasing manager's $50,000 authorization limit. This also, by doing a 3-year agreement, we save roughly 17.5% over the term. So it's a discount. So, and the term comes to $139,565 over the 3 years. The first installment is $62,000. That represents a 45%. The second year is 35%, and then the third year is a 20% to finish it out. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, John. Questions, comments, concerns?
I'll move approval as presented.
Second.
Moved by Verboen, seconded by Valley. Additional discussion? Hearing none, will clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show that item stands approved, 5 in favor. Good luck, John.
All right, thank you.
What you see in the movies. Next item comes from probation. Chief Probation Officer Kelly Burden, thank you for being here. Designating July 17th through the 23rd as Probation Services Week.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Kelly Vernon, Chief Probation Officer. Here requesting on behalf of the Probation Department that you approve a resolution designating July 17th through the 23rd of 2022 as Probation Services Week. Probation is an integral part of the public safety arena. We play a very essential and a unique role in that. We focus on helping justice-involved individuals transition out of the system permanently through transformative and evidence-based practices. We are a very diverse, educated, and gender equitable organization. Statewide, probation can claim that we have 51% of all probation officers in the state of California are female. In Kings County, that is 67% of our total population in the department as female. We have over 60% of people in our department who are people of color versus statewide of 73%. Most of our officers hold at least a four-year degree, if not a master's degree. And we are continuing our focus on public safety through all of our efforts thus far. Looking forward to advancements locally with the opening of the branch in the spring of '23. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the staff in the probation department for the work that they've done, particularly over the past couple of years, working through a pandemic. It was all new to us, so we don't even know if we've done it right or wrong. But we've been successful. We've kept the youth that are charged to our care safe. And our staff has volunteered to work countless shifts in juvenile hall, including probation staff, since we are shorthanded in our juvenile hall staff, but we are quickly remedying that. So with that, I would ask your board to approve the resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, comments, or concerns?
So move.
Second. Moved by Fagundes, seconded by Peterson. Additional questions or comments?
Good work.
Good work.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show it stands 5 in
Thank you.
favor. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. The next two items come from Public Works. First item is to approve change orders.
Yep, not allowed.
Not starting out well. Maybe we should put change orders as a second thing next time. We'll see how this works out.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of your board, Mitchell Cabrera, Chief Engineer with Public Works Department. Here before your board requesting the approval of the change order number 2 for the fiscal year 2021 Senate Bill 1 funded Kings County Roadway Improvement Project that was awarded to Papich Construction Company earlier in June 29th of 2021. This is the second change order, and we're requesting also authorizing the Public Works Director to sign the change order number 2. This second change order puts the total project cost plus the original contract over the 10% that the Public Works Director is authorized to approve. Change order number 1 was approved in May of this year. That included additional grinding on 10th Avenue, remobilization fees for 10th Avenue, and then the Excelsior Avenue dealing with the railroad company on that one. This second change order is to finalize the project. The actual quantities placed on some of the line items that were awarded exceeded the bid quantities or the original estimated quantities. So that is the reason for the second change order. The original contract with Papich was for $2.9 million. The total project cost with both change order 1 and change order 2 puts the final project cost at the end of construction at 3.4, right under 3.4, which is the funded amount for the SB1 2021. So we're within the allocated amount for that fiscal year's SB1 project. Work has been completed and a notice of completion will be brought before your board at a future board date. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mitchell.
There are no question. Move for approval.
Very good. Moved by Fagundes.
Yeah, that's a big change order. Yeah, I'll go ahead and second that, but
Okay.
That's a big change order.
Yeah, it was all in the amounts, plus the material increase, and then the amount of materials are just added to the.
Yeah, so it was the main items that were exceeded the bid quantities or our estimates were the HMA placement and then the shoulder backing. It's kind of hard to get an accurate number, especially on that shoulder backing, since some of the shoulders differ.
Did they fix the one on Excelsior? They had a mess there from the railroad track to 11th Avenue.
Yes, that one should be done. So the punch list has been completed. They did end up going out and doing some slurry on the road and some of the shoulder work. So it should be done by now.
Yeah. That item's been moved by Fagundes, seconded by Verboen. Are there additional questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboen.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show that item stands approved, 5 in favor. Good luck with that. Change orders. And then the second item from Public Works is consider signing the fund transfer agreement with the, to accept $2 million in Senate bill money.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Dominic, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dominic Tyberski, Director of Public Works. As you mentioned, I am before you this morning to request authorization for the Public Works Director to sign the funds transfer agreement with California Department of Transportation in order for the county to receive $2 million in Senate Bill 170 funds for the Kettleman City Pedestrian Bridge project. In March of 2021, county departments were asked to identify projects which could be submitted for potential federal earmark funding. Public Works submitted the Kettleman City Pedestrian Bridge as a potential earmark, which your board selected as its top priority. While the federal pursuit was unsuccessful, Supervisor Valley was able to coordinate with Assemblyman Rudy Salas to secure $2 million in Senate bill funds for this project. The SB 170 funds are in high demand, and at least one other agency has made a concentrated, although unsuccessful effort to divert these funds away from Kings County. By accepting these funds, your board is attesting to the commitment to complete this project, as the Kettleman City Pedestrian Bridge is the only authorized use for these funds. The department expects the $2 million will provide for the design, right-of-way, acquisition, and environmental clearance of this project. As such, additional funding will be necessary to construct the bridge, which may actually be coming in the form of additional state funds. We should know by the end of August. Assemblyman Rudy Salas's office is working diligently on trying to secure additional funds in the current state budget for this project. However, once this project is shovel-ready, it does put us in contention for sources currently not available to us. So alternative projects were considered to improve pedestrian access across State Route 41. However, the community has overwhelmingly requested a structure. And as previously mentioned, the $2 million in state funds allocated can only be used for a bridge. So additionally, I would like to call out 3 changes to the agreement, which have been reviewed and approved by County Council. Section 2.1 of the agreement incorrectly references the subdivision of the SB 170 bill relating to the Kettleman City funds. It should read Section 19.56 subdivision E14 rather than E7. Also, contact information has been updated to include Chris Gardner as the Caltrans representative, and lastly, Janine Ward-Waller will sign the agreement for the state. At this point, be happy to open it up for discussion and try to answer any questions any of you may have.
Very good. Thank you, Dominic.
So this money is only for a bridge, not an underpass? Supervisor Neves and I took a tour of the Clovis community, and we came across, they had a bike path that was over the top of the road where a family was hit by a car. And they spent like $1 million to go under, I want to say alluvial or one of the roads there. And it was a beautiful underpass, but of course you got, 30,000 people on each side of it, where Kettleman's only got, I think, 15 students on one side. So the money, if we agree with this, we can't even look at an underpass. We have drainage problems. We have to do drainage as well. That's our hands, our resources.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd have to refer to council. A bridge versus an undercrossing, I think, is a very similar endeavor that might fit within the guidelines. I don't know that I'm prepared to answer that question at this moment. I could certainly look into that, and I know we're kind of under the gun in terms of time. Any thoughts as to whether
You are probably more familiar than I am with the terms of the grant since you've been involved in that. But if it is exclusively for a bridge, and if the grant in fact says it's for a bridge, then I would think that an underpassing would not be a bridge. And I would have to look at the documents that indicate it to render a final opinion on it. But a bridge and an underpass, in my opinion, are a distinctive, different
We're gonna have a
project.
tunnel underneath the road anyways for drainage eventually someday. I know the one, was it alluvial that we were on?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think it was where, because it the new Costco or.
Yeah, a little further over, yeah, further north. There was a family who was hit by a drunk driver that hit the last kid in the group.
So that was on Shepherd where that
Shepherd.
occurred. And yeah, and you're right, those are more cost effective. One option would be to accept the money. We could look into whether an undercrossing would be optional. We may have to go back to the legislature to change the agreement. But we have to secure the money by the end of this fiscal year, or my understanding is that it goes away. So
Okay, so we approve the money and then, I mean, it's gonna be expensive for the overpass. But we're still concerned about public safety, getting people across safely, so I think we should pursue the cheapest cost and the best fit for the community as well.
absolutely. I do think there was some security concerns in speaking with Sheriff about, potentially having an undercrossing. It gives an opportunity for, possibly unsavory characters, homeless, whatnot, to be under the bridge. And if the whole point is to provide a safe crossing for, kids and families, it may not be the best application, but it's certainly something we can look into. Absolutely.
I'll vote for approval on that note right there, that you'll look into it.
Absolutely.
Yes, sure.
Supervisor Peter.
Yeah, I'd just like clarification from county council. In the summary, last sentence says, by accepting these state funds, the county is agreeing to move forward with the project, which is currently experiencing a $5 million shortfall. So in your mind, is agreeing mean bound?
Again, I'd have to look at the terms of that grant funding. If we default, then I would expect that we would have to return the money. But otherwise, agreeing would mean that that is our intent and our purpose to go forward.
Well, what do you mean by default? So as long as we spend this money towards the project, so, if we go out, we acquire right of way, we pay for design, we do the environmental process. If that's as far as we get, we don't have to repay the money because we've used it for its intended purpose, which is to, put towards a project to build a pedestrian bridge. Everybody knows that, there is a shortfall that we need to secure additional funding. There's no timeline by which we have to secure that money or face repaying the money. So as long as we use it for this purpose, we're within the law. It's if we were to take this $2 million and, go build a road or something, that's when we would be in default.
So clarify, this is for the design portion of the project.
That's what we intend on using it for. The way the legislature is written is not so tight in the sense that, that's their intent. As long as it's used for this project, we are within the guidelines.
I would like express guarantees that that is the case and
If the requirement is that we approve the funding before the end of the fiscal year, then perhaps we can bring it back on the 28th next week, and I can look into some of those concerns a little bit more and render a final legal opinion on how it would bind the county.
I do have one hand raised online. John, would you like to introduce yourself and then make your remark?
Yes, thank you so much. My name is John Basmajian from the CRISCOM company. I monitor all of the meetings for the Kings County Board of Supervisors for CRISCOM. Chuck Jaloyan wanted to give an update, but he's currently driving through the Grapevine and doesn't have reception, so I'll be providing a brief update. We greatly appreciate the work that Supervisor Valley has done on this project, and we're delighted to let you know that Tulare County cannot touch any of the funds. It is fully protected. The $2 million used to be given right to the county. It used to be given right to the county, but now it will go straight to the transportation department. The extra funding of the $5 million will hopefully be part of the trailer bill with other statewide requests. We should hopefully know in the next few weeks or in August about the results of that. Thank you for allowing me a moment to provide a brief update.
Good, thank you, John. Supervisor Valley, you have a question, comment, follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One, thank you, Dominic, for bringing this agenda item back. I know there's a lot of public clarification that needs to be out there. At the same time, it's very unfortunate that we even have to have this agenda item, meaning that we have an assembly member who took a request and ask and who went and delivered $2 million for this important public safety project. Unfortunately, as we here at the county reported out and expected, we fully expected the state to deliver the $2 million to a Kings County account. And it didn't happen. And it went on for a long time, causing a lot of confusion to the point where questions are being asked, what did the county do with the money? There's people who thought that the board took the money and we spent it somewhere else, which obviously we did not. So then we found out that Caltrans actually had this money. And so I look at today's agenda item as a way to simply clear up the clarification, to bring the money here where it was intended to be. And as we all know, when you're taking on large projects like this, there's no guarantees in anything. I mean, look at the agenda item before this where we just had to change a large amount of money on a change order here. But leaving this money where it's at is not safe. There's already been an opportunity by Kern County. Kern County tried to actually take this money, and Caltrans actually tried to give this money to Kern County till we found out about it. And we put a stop to that. And Assemblymember Salas called a meeting with Caltrans officials, Mr. Ed Hill, Dominic, myself, and we came to a very positive conclusion here. So Caltrans wants to see the money here in Kings County. Caltrans has offered to help us coming out of that very positive meeting to be help us fiscally in terms that, as Dominic is talking about design here, Caltrans has offered us to see if any bridges they've constructed in the past, that if their designs actually fit this, they're willing to give us those designs or to help us cut cost here. So again, a couple of reminders here. This was Kings County's priority last year. This year, our priority went to a different direction, which I was happy to support this year's priority as we reach out for congressional earmarks to help with other places in Kings County. The other reminder is sad and it's tragic that yesterday a pedestrian was struck and killed here on Highway 41 and near I-5 in Kettleman City. And so we're looking for the details on that, but all accounts that I read yesterday was that it was an adult pedestrian who was killed. And the topic here is children, where the majority of the people in Kettleman City that are crossing this highway are children and a lot of the times unattended. And I can say that because I've been there and I physically have crossed them on a foggy morning with an orange vest on and a stop sign and been out there multiple times to show that that is not a safe location. So I appreciate the board's support of this by making it #1 priority last year. And I think this is just simply to say, let's take the money, let's put it here, let's give Dominic time to do his job. Assemblymember Salas, and speaking with his chief of staff again this morning, his again indicated that Assemblymember Salas is actively pursuing this funding. And I think that's all we could ever ask our state reps to do. I mean, is there a guarantee that he can bring the 5 million home? No, but he took the ask and he's working with it. So I'd like to approve the, I'd like to make the second to Supervisor Rabin's motion on the table.
If I may add some further comments, if section 3.1 and 3.2 of the agreement actually define the scope of work and identifies that the funds provided under the agreement will be used to prepare the project plan, specifications, and estimate and the right-of-way acquisition for the Kettleman City pedestrian bridge. And the deliverables for this include the engineering plans, the completed environmental document, the right-of-way acquisition. So long as the funds are used for those purposes, then we would not be in breach of the agreement.
So safety.
Mm-hmm.
So if I may, I'd like to add a couple of, so I actually included that because the draft document required that we include a scope, but the law itself, the way it's written, it's very broad. It just says Kettleman City Pedestrian Bridge. There's no other points to that. But going back to the possibility of delaying this action, Section 4.1 says the funds will be encumbered within 2 days of the effective date of this agreement, which would be, the board approves it. If the funds are not encumbered by June 30th, they shall revert to the state's general fund. So, and this is something that Caltrans brought to us probably 2 weeks ago, saying that, hey, either prove this money by the end of the year or it's going somewhere else. So even though we have had positive meetings, it seems to me that there's still an effort to try to divert this money. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and just some personal experience. Back when West Hills College, the Lemoore campus was built, just experience with Caltrans, they change their mind regularly. You can have an agreement with them, with respect to the overpass that's over Bush today. It was Caltrans' contention that intersection was the equivalent of Friant and 41 in Fresno, in Lemoore, right? So at that time, Mike Vines was leader of the Senate, or whatever. Again, met with them and said, come on, is that reality? So they changed. Said, yeah, in the view of him being in the room, it changed. And then he left office and it changed back. So just cautious. It is about who and when, and they'll change at the drop of a hat. So.
Yes, sir. I agree with that.
Additional questions or comments? There is a motion moved by Verboen, seconded by Valley. Any other clarification or comments? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboen.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show that item stands approved. 5 in favor. Thank you very much.
thank you.
We'll now move to the Health Department. Get an update on the COVID-19. And Rosemary, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Chairman, Supervisors, Rosemary Rand, Department of Public Health. Update on COVID-19 numbers. The number of cases last week was 363 and the week prior was 366. All of the cases are Omicron, although we are noting the BA4 and BA5 subvariants are accounting for 20% of the positive cases, with the remaining being the BA2 subvariants. Kings County entered the high classification for community transmission this past Thursday, according to the Center for Disease Control. This was driven by the new COVID admissions per 100,000 metric hospital admissions, reaching 10.7 for the hospital service area in which we are included with Fresno and Madera counties. Our hospitalizations, though, have remained steady. The current local hospitalizations are at 6 cases, 5 which are Kings County residents and none in the ICU. Testing continues in the county at various locations and also at the Public Health Department. Last week, there were a total of 900 tests at the Health Department and a total of 2,511 in the county, with a 12.5 positivity rate. Last week, for reference, was 9.4%. We continue to hand out rapid antigen test kits to residents, businesses, and various agencies. And as a follow-up, the KCAO food distribution, 5,395 kits were distributed to families across the county. Over the last week, 511 vaccines were given in Kings County. And this week in the Western States Scientific Safety Review Work Group, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the Federal Food and Drug Administration granted an emergency use authorization of the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines for children as young as 6 months of age. And as noted last week, the county should be receiving our vaccines this week. We received the Moderna, and the Pfizer should be coming this afternoon. Additional information and details on all the reports are located on the website. And as always, we would like to remind everyone to stay home when you're sick, get tested if you're experiencing COVID-like symptoms, and get vaccinated or boosted if you have not. Masks continue to provide protection, and we strongly recommend wearing them in crowded settings, and masks are still required in healthcare settings. A couple items, as today is the first day of summer, the forecast is for triple digits for the remainder of the week, so we would remind residents to plan their activities in the cooler hours of the day, drink plenty of water, check in on elderly neighbors and family members who are at risk during extreme heat. Residents can call 211 or go to the 211kingscounty.org for cooling zones and information if cooling centers will be opened. I have a quick update on formula from last week. The state has allowed a temporary authorization of our Women, Infants, and Children WIC program to purchase an alternative but equally nutritious formula in place of their normal formula benefits. And they are projecting this to be a 6-week shortage, but that was on May 25th, and there's still been some delays, so we actually anticipate it will go into July. In addition, we have ordered additional formula for our WIC programs. We've ordered 300 cases, which are 1,800 cans of formula, and we're able to order every 2 weeks. We are prioritizing the communities where we have WIC clinics near Avenel, Corcoran, and Kettleman City for families who can't access the formula or would need to drive into Hanford or Fresno to get formula. Most of the time, we're recommending WIC applicants utilize their card to get the formula. And we are encouraging the public to apply for WIC benefits. Sometimes you are eligible when you think you might not be there. They have a broader ability. And that is all for today, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? It seems like the hospitalizations are both down, and then the length of stay seems to be shorter.
Yes. So what we're noticing is, although the numbers are going up, the severity of the illness is not as bad, which is positive. We're seeing more people positive, but they're not staying in the hospital as long.
Yeah, and it seems like the meds, they have the treatment down pretty.
So that is something with the test and treat. We have that on our website. So if you get tested, you get positive, we're trying to link you up so you can get your antiviral medication quickly.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Anybody have a free arm? Have plenty of booster.
Yeah, get your booster.
Very good, thank you. Let's see, now we'll move on to the Job Training Office, to a study session on the American Rescue Plan, Small Business Assistance Program. And Lance, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Supervisors. The item, and actually there is a PowerPoint. I don't know if possible to pull up or not. Not a worry, we're going to operate without it. Getting pretty good at tech and kind of making it work, duct tape and chicken wire. I'm Lance Lippincott with the Job Training Office, also with the Kings County Economic Development Corporation. The item before you today actually goes back to August 3rd, 2021. At that time, the Board of Supervisors had allocated $500,000 for small business assistance, a program to be instituted across the county. The item before you today is bringing it back on study session to get direction from your board on how we roll this out and what populations that can actually access it. Bringing it back to date, the Kings County Board of Supervisors has obligated more than $7.5 million in funding to assist small businesses in Kings County. Originally, when the $6 million program came out, that was the highest per capita business assistance program in the state of California. It even beat the state programs. We didn't keep statistics past that because they just frankly rolled out too many programs we couldn't keep up. However, of that $7.5 million, $6.267 million has been granted to Kings County businesses to date across 3 separate programs, one of which we're wrapping up this week. Overall, applications awarded by area, and this is a little bit old data, under the $6 million program, 347 applications were awarded, 491 applications were received. There were 24 funded applications in Avenal, 32 in the unincorporated areas, 33 in Corcoran, 69 in Lemoore, and 189 for Hanford. By area, to date, we've rolled out funding. Avenal's received Avenal businesses rather, have received $362,300 in assistance. Corcoran businesses have received $536,903 in assistance. The unincorporated areas have received $574,050 in assistance. Lemoore has received $1.177 million in assistance, and Hanford businesses have received $3.2 million in assistance. Overall, for the grants that we've rolled out to date, 100% of grant funds have gone to the businesses. We've used leverage funds to account for administrative costs across so that there weren't any funding retained by the department to actually execute on the grants. I would be remiss if I didn't highlight the contributing partners. We do a lot of advertising for these programs over social media. We have cold calls. We called about 2,000 businesses during the last one. We send it out, email blast, everything else. And we get a lot of responses. Is this a scam? Is this any of that stuff? So King in Kings County has always been word of mouth. And honestly, without that word of mouth recommendation for a lot of these programs and referrals, we wouldn't be as successful as we are. Kings County Board of Supervisors, you guys, I know you guys have all called me at one time or another with referrals and stuff. That has been huge. The EDC has been a great contributing partner. The Greater Kings County Chamber of Commerce, the Hanford Chamber of Commerce, the Corcoran Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Hanford, Assemblymember Rudy Salas's office, State Senator Melissa Hurtado's office, Kings County Department of Finance, King County Council's office, California EDD, and the CAO's office have all been absolutely instrumental in getting the word out and making sure that these programs actually have applicants and we get the funding out.
Lance, just a moment.
Yep.
Ed is going to pull that PowerPoint up for you. He was able to
Perfect.
find it.
Appreciate it.
Am I on the right slide?
Yep, you're good to go. Thanks. First one up. So allocation. We've taken a look on the staff side about allocating these, and previously on the $6 million program, it was a per capita allocation out across the county. There are several options here, and what we're going to highlight are a couple of them and then a staff recommendation. And I'll come back at the end so you guys can provide a summary on it or decision on the summary. The first option for allocating this funding out is an equal division of funding by supervisorial district. It's a total of $500,000. So this would be about $100,000 per district. It's not one that we're recommending because it doesn't actually target the funding to the most responsive areas. Option 2 is a per capita allocation, and we've broken it down on there by city and in the unincorporated areas. Again, this isn't a staff recommendation because the county received its own ARPA allocation. The cities have received theirs. The cities prioritized what they believed were the highest priorities for expenditures out of the ARPA fund. The county has done likewise. So it would potentially devalue some of the benefit of the money if we included some of the incorporated areas. Option 3 is the one that staff is recommending. It's 100% of the funding allocated for business in the unincorporated areas. And the justification is basically what I explained. The municipalities receive their own allocations. It'd be a little bit duplication of effort if we provided the county allocations of ARPA to cover small businesses there. However, it is something that would be allowed under the program currently. The second item that we need direction on is size of business eligibility. The first option up there is 5 or fewer full-time equivalent employees. We're not recommending this option because we already have 2 programs that are responsive to this area, and they are a little bit tough to fulfill because of the business size. Option 2 is 10 or fewer full-time equivalents, including independent contractors. Again, we don't recommend this one. It's such a small set. It doesn't really incorporate the total benefit that could be rolled out to the unincorporated areas. Option 3 bumps that up to 25, which would be reflective of the $6 million program. However, staff are really providing a recommendation for option 4. Option 4 classifies small businesses as 50 or fewer full-time equivalent employees, including independent contractors. This would expand the class out quite a bit to allow some businesses that were hurt through COVID to actually apply for this funding that may not have been able to on earlier rounds. So it does broaden the class quite a bit. The third area where we're going to need direction is nonprofit eligibility. Of the recommendations, of the 2 options, which is fund or don't fund, or allow nonprofits to apply or not allow, staff are recommending that nonprofits not be eligible for this grant funding. They were eligible for previous classes of grant funding. The only concern is there is so much money out there that nonprofits can access at this point. However, there isn't as much for private business. So it would seem to devalue the actual impact of the money if nonprofits were allowed to put in for it. The next option is for specific use or general use. If you guys recall in the last grant, we allowed funding to be used for specific purposes. And there was a little bit of heartache on it from some of the businesses because it couldn't fit exactly what they needed. In this instance, staff are recommending a specific use. Unfortunately, ARPA is very specific in what these funds can be used for. And to avoid any potential compliance or liability for disallowed costs, staff are recommending that it be confined to these categories: payroll, benefits, costs to retrain employees, mortgage, rent, utilities, and other operating costs. The other operating cost is a relatively broad category, which would encompass some of the utilizations that were previously not allowed, which would broaden the program out and make it much more impactful. General use, while being the best option for flexibility, there's some concerns that we could run into compliance and liability issues. So this is not one that we're recommending. The final item for direction is maximum amount of award. There are, I think we put 3 options on there, 5,000, 20,000, and 25,000. In our previous grants, 20,000 was the max that was allowed. We're recommending that that go up even further to 25,000 per grant award. When the $6 million program was really undertaken, we didn't have as many economic stressors that were really impacting businesses. And 20,000 was hugely impactful to the ones that got the award. Now, unfortunately, in between the employment, our employment pool shrinking between 1,000 to 6,000 in Kings County and all the other difficulties, cost of gas going up and everything else, staff are recommending that we up the maximum award to 25,000 so that it's a little bit more impactful for businesses, especially in the current economic times. Bringing it back, the 4 categories that we will need, thank you, Ed, you are the best PowerPoint guy. The 4 categories are actually up there. We will need direction on allocation, size of business and eligibility, nonprofit eligibility, as well as award amount. The recommendations from staff are put up there as well. And it is up to your guys' direction. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Lance. Questions, comments, concerns? Supervisor Valley, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Lippincott, you and your staff for a job well done through the pandemic. You guys showed you were right there in the trenches along with most of us too. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess the first question would be just see where the board's at, if they agree that 500,000 for unincorporated only is the direction they want to go. And looking at Lance's numbers, unincorporated with our $6 million program we put out came in at 574,000. So 500,000 is in the ballpark. A little bit more might get us there to more real picture on the need for unincorporated only. But if the board felt that they wanted to help cities, then I think the appropriate thing to do would be to decide early to ask staff and Mr. Lippincott to come back with a bigger budget so we can talk about city allocation. So I'm just asking that to be fair to the board members who may want to look at cities, or as Lance said, those cities got ARPA funds as well. So I guess that's the first point there for the board.
I don't have a question with it as far as cities goes, but are you working with the cities to help them understand who got the money last time to help them again, like to share the list?
Yeah, so, and we coordinated with all the cities to make sure we weren't awarding duplicate awards during the last one, and we have their list as well. As far as I know, none of the cities have put together a program for this round of ARPA. That doesn't mean it's not out there. It just means I haven't seen it. So
$500,000 is not a lot of money, but I like your recommendation. I think that's a good fit. If we start spreading it thinner throughout the cities, not really going to be useful. So, well, yeah, we got more money. More money is always good, but can we get more money?
It's up to you guys.
Well, to Super Boone's point, I mean, it kind of is hard to look at the bigger picture when we have $29 million in funding, but the board hasn't seen all of that. We've only approved, one round? So with the 2 rounds, so that leaves us with the balance of how much versus the bigger picture of where else is this money going to go to? When you go back to the, not the ARPA funds, but the CARES funds, obviously the board, we originally came out with 5 million, then down the line, Super Boone brought an excellent package back for another $1 million. We upped it another $1 million to 6 million. And as Lance said, that helped tremendously with small businesses. So.
Supervisor Valley through the chair, the current balance, and this includes projects that were recently approved by the ARPA committee that will be coming to your board. There'll be one next week, and then there'll be one, or excuse me, there'll be another item on the 12th, but it'll be all the remaining projects, including those projects in that the balance is 11 million currently.
11 million left?
Correct. And that's
Okay.
including the ones that your board have not approved yet.
Okay, and then, so we're talking 500,000 right now.
I like what we did last time. I mean, 6 million, 6.5 million back to the businesses that were impacted by COVID, the ones that the government shut down, the ones that the government held their thumbs over. They couldn't make it through the pandemic. We lost a lot of people through that. People are having a hard time getting back on their feet. And now if they're back on their feet, they're dealing with all the potential recession coming on, the high price of fuel, 30 to 60% increase in fuel, which affects everything. So I say give them, go back to where we started, with the $6.5 million and start with that list.
That's a point. That's a point only because one, we know there's businesses that are still not digging themselves out of the hole. Lake Bottom out of Corcoran is one of them that, I speak to the owners a lot about, and they've still not recovered. And I believe they even received one of the checks coming out of Lance's office, but that was a hard hole to climb out of. And so even though I get it that Lance is approaching the county's pot of money which was for unincorporated, at the same time, a healthy city means a healthy county. And we all have cities in our districts that.
Well, we don't duplicate.
Yeah, where people depend on us and come to us. So I would be open to looking at those numbers too.
I'm still helping people out in my business. I haven't been paid one tenant for 6 months because they can't get back on their feet. They're struggling. I mean, the cost of water's increased, the sewer, water, trash increased. I talked to the city manager of Corcoran in April or May, and he said that their fuel cost just for the trash was up $400,000 just to get the trash out of there. So we're all feeling the pain here. So I think we got to get back to the people that were impacted by it. And I think what we did last time was remarkable throughout the state. And that goes to your office for doing that. So if we can get there again, that'd be great.
Just for added clarity, we are launching another program with community development at the same time. It's going to be another $500,000 program. That one's also county only. However, it's only micro businesses.
Talking $500,000, nothing.
And if you look at total GDP for the county, it is a relatively small drop in the bucket. But I know the $6 million program, there were so many people. The bar next door to our office, they were shut down the entire time of COVID. He went through his entire savings. The 25,000 helped bridge the gap. 500,000, the concern we have at the staff level is always impact. The unincorporated, that's a much more targeted impact. A bigger pot of money, you could roll it out much more broadly. And that's what we did with the 6 million, because it was such a substantial amount of money. It was whoever, the unincorporated area couldn't have absorbed all of that at once.
Right.
Mr. Chair, if I may, of the approved items from the ARPA committee, 3 of them that will be coming to your board on the 12th are business related, but they only total approximately 2 million. One of them is for digital marketing for businesses to help advertise their business. Another one is for operational and drought relief for our CSDs. And then another one is for our cemetery districts. But just to get that on your radar, there are some other funds that have been set aside for businesses, just so you have that at your knowledge.
Right. So I've heard a couple numbers thrown out here today. You're requesting 500,000?
Yes, which was allocated in August of last year.
Okay.
It's already been
allocated.
Yes.
You're not asking for more.
No,
You're just asking to reallocate that. Are you proposing?
I'm proposing to do what we did last time.
Is what?
$6.5 million to the businesses impacted by COVID.
Out of the ARPA funds.
ARPA fund.
Which is 11 million left.
Yeah, but I believe we have some allocations for that. And I think, I appreciate the encouragement and everything we've done for businesses, but that funding also was identified for, the extraordinary expenses that the county has incurred throughout this. And, I think the thing that gets forgot is that all the people that are served by this county. And, I think we've had, over these years but you think about this county, we have 400, over 400 kids in, that are without parents in this county. All of those kids, are at risk right now. And I believe we've extended ourselves, to the businesses of this county. But I think we need to, and when I say we, the county is a service organization and we provide services. Our costs have not went down. And it's going to be, just look at the items we had on the agenda this morning, looking at roads. And I just couldn't support at this point. I think we've looked outside the walls of the county, but I think at this point, I think we need to be very careful because the full weight of this economic disaster is going to come back to us, and it's going to come back to us shortly. And we're going to be in a very difficult position. We've looked at wage increases across the board. We just did some more today. Those things, when things go south, we've always had, our reserves, but I just point to the state. The last time we hit an economic downturn, the first quarter, the rainy day fund was gone. And so as much as I agree, I think we need to make sure that this 500,000 gets out into the community. I think we better keep our powder dry with respect to the operations of the county.
Supervisor Valley,
Yeah, just to maybe move the conversation along, Mr. Chairman, I think, if I heard Super Boone right, it's not a decision we can make today on 6 million. But I think maybe what him and I are trying to get to is to see the bigger picture. Maybe we hit pause today, bring back the entirety of the 11 million, right? Where the board could at least take a look at that and say, okay, maybe it's not 6 million for small business, maybe it's 3 million. But the board has not been able to be the ones to prioritize this money and I appreciate my colleague, Sue Peterson, his discussions on county services, but they got the first bite of the pie. The first round was all about county human resources. The first round of ARPA funds, I even noted on it at that time, why are we spending this money just here on the government center when the need is outside these brown buildings and along the within the borders of Kings County line? So I think that as a leader that at this point, the board should get the opportunity to take a look at the remaining 11 million, and then we could prioritize. And I like the topics that are coming back. Now we're getting to the meat of it, but I think there's room there. When we talk cemetery districts, that came up from the Corcoran Cemetery District, but we also talked about, hey, it's not a unique situation to Corcoran. This has to be affecting all the cemetery districts. So maybe that discussion comes up and there's a cemetery district that says, don't worry about us, we're flush. Boom, there's another $100,000 there, right? So let's if that's going down the right line, maybe we just hit pause, bring this back, take a look at it, and I'd be in support of that. But to do it quickly, because as Sue Peterson stated, that's 500,000 we already allocated, and Lance is just saying, how do me and my staff pull the trigger on this?
Yeah, and I like your recommendation. I would approve that. I'm just saying, if there's more money out there, I would like to see it go to businesses that were impacted by COVID. We need to get past COVID. We need to get through this. We have still got people struggling. They're looking ahead at the recession, possible recession, and not making it. If we have money to help them through that, that'd be great. If not, we do what we can. I'd like to wait until the 12th and see what the ARPA committee has done. We put the committee together to get their input, so they may have identified some of this and it may work out. So
July 12th?
Huh?
So that's July 12th?
I think so, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
We're dark on the 5th, so it'll be the 12th.
Want to make a motion to bring it back then?
It's a study session anyway, so you just got to have direction.
Yeah. So I'm okay with the recommendation for the 500,000. I'd like to look at the next ARPA funds on July 12th to see what they propose for us to do and make a decision at that point. I mean, I may be off, but that's just my personal thoughts at this point.
So then back to your requests with respect to how you would like to see it, I mean, so with respect to we have, and I don't know how, we get this out there. I mean, there are restaurants. I look at restaurants as, probably the most challenged, trying to find people, trying to pass through the costs that they're receiving. And that's with every business. So if we're limited to unincorporated, are you confident that you can move that?
Yeah, we did a study of the previous grant allowances and we based it on total awards and amounts that we could get out based on applicants in the unincorporated. And we did struggle a little bit on unincorporated areas. I know there were 2 days at least that I took my motorcycle out and just knocked on doors, but we think we can get out 500,000. That being said, if you guys do vote more, we're standing up this program now. It's a Kings County grant. We can modify the program for additional funding and it's logistically, it's easy to roll out. That's not a substantial change for us. I do think this would impact the unincorporated areas a little bit more heavily than if it is spread out. It's $500,000 is a great pot of money, but when you look at $25,000 per award, you're only looking at a total of about 20 awards overall. So, and Hanford businesses have been a little bit more energetic overall. Total awards have really kind of favored Hanford in general. That's why we're recommending essentially the unincorporated areas.
And again, the amount of employees you're recommending is 25 or 50?
So we're actually recommending 50. There were a lot of businesses last time that have part-time or temporary labor that it does push them up past the 50 limit or the 25 limit on the previous grant. They just weren't able to apply. A lot of these are family operations. 50 seems to be where when they're picking up temporary workers, especially for harvest or planting, depending on the season, it still keeps them under that limit. And that's kind of what we looked at when we looked at the 50 limit.
I know with the government program for the PPP, they picked a time in the year where you would have had employees or wouldn't have had employees. And I was one person at the time, they had 3 employees, but the time he was impacted when he had 65 employees. And so the second round, he was able to, recapture some of his loss. But the first round, he got nothing.
Those kind of complaints are kind of what we're trying to take in mind. I mean, I get them a lot, which I appreciate they're willing to call my phone and let me know, but that's kind of what we're looking at, unfortunately.
So a year, 12-month period, your total employees for that year.
And they must be in business prior to the COVID mitigation efforts as ARPA requires.
And some people did well during COVID. And I had one of my businesses said, no, I'm doing better than I ever have. So it's how you attacked it or if you follow the rules or not. So right now I'm okay with what Lance's recommendations are to go forward. And we'll discuss the rest of it on July 12th.
I add to that too, Mr. Chairman. I'm fine with it. Looking at the 574,000 from the program we did during COVID and the 500,000 today. By the 12th, can you also just give us an update on the need, the amount of applications coming in for the unincorporated to see if there's if you need a little bit more added on to that? Because I know now this time from looking, you're also going to take 10,000 for your staff resources, and that's minimal compared. It's very minimal. And I also want to point out that the 6 million, if I recall right, you didn't take any of that. You used all that within your budget. And I know your staff worked tirelessly through weekends. And so you covered all those additional expenses, and I appreciate that. And I know that even meant taking a Spanish-speaking person out to Avenel and Kettleman when you were calling and saying, hey, look, not enough businesses from your district are applying. There's still money out there. And you went out and you made sure people knew, hey, this money's here. And that's a lot of effort and to be commended on that. So just keep us updated on that target number.
If I may, just to make sure we understand the direction that's been given by the board today, and let me summarize and you can correct me. It's my understanding that you've authorized or that you've directed Mr. Lippincott to move forward as recommended, but then also to bring back information for consideration of expansion of the program. Would that summarize what the direction from the board is today?
Yes, but I think that also includes Mr. Hill and his staff to bring back the remaining budget so that way that we can balance out between the both of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments from board members? Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Rebecca?
I have a question in regards to the budget. If should any funding, I know that there's a desperate need for fundings, but should there happen to be any money left over, is that rolled over or is it a use or lose?
Depending on, as we've done on previous grants, if there's any money left over, we return it to the original granting agency, which in this case would be the County of Kings. But generally speaking, we've tried to get as much or all of the money out if possible.
Mhm. And so people would just turn in their applications. And so how would you, when you are going through the filtering process of saying yay or nay to certain applications, what is your filtering process based on it? Are you going based on their sales, of what you think their chances of surviving is? Or is it that you have faith in this business, you give it to them, and then they just still close anyway when that money could have gone to somebody that had better chances for that? What would put one business over the other, and what is that determination of deciding who receives and who doesn't?
So it's really grant specific, and it depends on the program that's ran. With the $6 million, we established minimum criteria for each business to reach. And then they had to show and prove an economic impact due to the COVID mitigation efforts. They did that through 2019 tax returns versus 2020, profit and loss statements and stuff like that. Generally speaking, we establish those as first in, first awarded. We don't do a separate subjective or objective panel to assess each application. We have switched that up with the most recent grant program that we have ran, and it did increase the amount of staff time that needed to be allocated. So it wasn't quite as efficient as we hoped. With this program, we would go back to the original program setup, first in, first awarded, as long as minimum qualifications are established and met with supporting documents.
Okay, because it's not usually advertised at all. So how do people get word of mouth? Because I take care of a lady and she had a small business and it went belly up. So, because she said, holy crud, I didn't even know this was out there. I mean, I'm not saying, but it's.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And honestly, if anybody is looking for this stuff, we put it all on our social media. We did a cold call campaign last time we tried to call every business in Kings County. We got a little over, I think it was 3,000 calls out and stuff like that. We've also done email change. We had staff go door to door as well. Unfortunately, we can't hit everybody despite our best efforts, but I would highly suggest if you do have a Facebook account, like the JTO Facebook page, all of this is posted there. We advertise it all. And not only that, or call our office, call my office. I got a lot of calls and we're happy to help. If anybody has a problem with the application, we're happy to assist them to get it written.
All right, thank you.
Good, thank you. Mr. Hill, do you have a question or comment?
No, I was just going to add clarification that these funds are ARPA funds, which have to be committed by the end of calendar year 2025, and they have to be fully expended by the end of calendar year 2026. So they are a use it or lose it program.
Good, thank you. Lance, any closing comments?
I just want to thank you guys. I mean, it's kind of been my privilege. JTO is not a granting agency. Staff have really pulled out all the stops to make sure that we could do this. I've heard all the complaints from my colleagues in other jurisdictions, but I got to say for us, it's been nice to see these businesses. So they're very appreciative.
Good job.
Very good.
Thank you all.
Good, thank you. No other questions or comments. We'll move on to the final evening event of the morning, and that's a public hearing for the purpose of receiving testimony regarding the use of military equipment use policies. And we're going to be tag teamed by the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney's Office.
Yes, sir.
So thank you very much.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Robert Thayer, Assistant Sheriff. I know my counterpart colleague from the DA's office, Charlie Flores, and I are here representing both of our bosses for the approval of the ordinance adopting the military equipment use policies and the annual reports. I guess the first part is to conduct a public hearing.
Yeah, so are there any questions or comments for either Thayer or Flores before we open the public hearing?
Do they have to be without four-letter words?
Yeah.
Okay, I pass.
With that, we'll open the public hearing for the purpose of receiving testimony regarding the military equipment use policies. Does the clerk have a record of anyone that would like to address the public hearing part?
I have received no written testimony and no one has filled out a speaker card to speak or raise their hand online.
Very good. Thank you. Last call. Anyone like to offer testimony this morning regarding the military use policies? Rebecca? Quickly, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I noticed that in the meeting a few months ago in regards to the safety of people, because you're now just giving the game plan to the other guys, so of what you have and what you don't have. So you're giving them the odds of it for them to counter. Now, has there been anything that has developed based on that? Or has any threats or anything that gave you the impression that somebody was actually going to be assertive about using that against you? Because knowing what you've had to use recently in regards to the over there up in Fargo, in regards to multiple departments having to use additional additional equipment and whatnot to help diffuse the situation. Now, would that have been provided to you, or would you have to have displaced what was used to diffuse that situation?
If I understand your question correctly, I don't see any issues in the future with, the disclosure of these pieces of equipment that the county owns, that our offices use, in pursuit of public safety. Our office has 9 items to report, drones, robots, armored car, command post, distraction devices. I'm sure Charlie has I think you said you had 4.
Correct. And Charlie Flores with the KDA's office, I would just say that within the reporting, there are no tactics, techniques, or protocols that are actually being disclosed.
Okay.
It's really just an accounting of equipment.
Okay.
So I think if there was to be a legitimate concern, if we're going to be completely objective, is maybe if someone was keeping track of how much was actually deployed. We're talking about munitions. But generally, tactics are not being disclosed. It's simply just an accounting of equipment.
Yeah, because I don't see why you have to disclose it, honestly.
As an assembly bill is forcing them to, AB 481, it's not them
Yeah.
going to do that. Not to interrupt you, but I just don't want them to get painted in a bad light. They're following.
Exactly, because it's not fair. So this would be government overreach and we would have to take it to Sacramento or go after the person that actually made the darn bill. So what, as a citizen, can we do to fight against that?
If I may, some of these are fair and legitimate questions that I think are appropriately discussed. I think they're a little bit of the question answer dialogue may not be what's contemplated fully at the public hearing, but these are legitimate questions as far as what actions can citizens take that can be discussed. And what I would recommend is that you, after this meeting, come and ask some of those questions to county staff.
Very good. Thank you, Rebecca.
On a side note, she brought up an incident that occurred the other day. It was in the news of a reported shooting that took place in a residential neighborhood in the city of Hanford. And we were very grateful and immediate response to be contacted by the police department that they needed our armored Bearcat, a big, large 4-door Bearcat, to get into that neighborhood and start rescuing people, regular citizens not involved in this, and getting them back out. So to have those kinds of pieces of equipment are critical to public safety. Why they call it military equipment, I'm not sure. I don't see these typically on the news stories of the events of today, but nonetheless, we're here for the public hearing.
Yeah, very good. Is there anyone else that would like to offer testimony this morning? See no one come forward, no one online. We'll close public hearing, bring it back for actions by the board. Mr. Thayer, any closing statements, or Mr. Flores?
Well, I think go on to letter B, that then I guess the next item of business is to waive the second reading and adopt an ordinance to adopt the military equipment use policies to the Kings County Sheriff's Office, and then also with Kings County District Attorney's Office pursuant to the policies pursuant to AB 481. And then lastly, probably can all be done in one swift motion, I assume, that to receive and approve the annual reporting of each of our offices funding, acquisition, or use of military equipment.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Flores, anything you want to add?
Just a quick comment. I want to say thank you to the board, and specifically, as we were preparing for AB 41 to figure out how to come into compliance, I was in communication with district attorney chiefs throughout the state of California. I know the difficulty that they had trying to decipher how to become compliant with this newfound law. I think everyone struggled with it. I want to just take a moment to say thank you to County Council, specifically Jennifer Schiffer, her no nonsense, just very pragmatic approach to looking at this new law and figuring out how to become compliant was a huge help. I also want to thank Commander Chris Barstaciano. I collaborated with him probably, I think, daily for several weeks on end, and I think that was just a good demonstration of what we can have when we're working together and working together well. So thank you to everyone that did help bring this together. It was new, it was different. Rebecca, I appreciate your concern in highlighting that. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. Bring it back by the board.
Make a motion to accept the adopting of the ordinance, waive the reading, and accept the reporting.
Second.
Moved by Verboen, seconded by Valley. Additional questions or comments? You sure you don't want to read it? Never mind. With that, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboen.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Very good. Let the record show that item stands approved, 5 in favor. Diane, will it have to come back one more time? Or is this the second reading and then
This is the second reading and it will not have to come back
so
again.
there's no final adoption after the second reading?
That's correct. It's adopted today.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. That concludes the business of today. We'll now move to board member announcements or reports on their own activities. Board members can make brief reports on their what they've been doing. So Supervisor Fagundes, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, the only thing we had this week was Wednesday, Commission on Aging. We had the breakfast, turned out good, a lot of people. Elvis was a big hit with some people. Yeah, he made a lot of people's day there. And we had a lot of people that came that struggled to get there, and some of them struggled to get home. We were offering rides back to their vehicles and help what we could. And I think it was very successful, thanks to Supervisor Neves and his equipment that we used there to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you. Supervisor Valley?
Good job. Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to quickly note and thank Nathan Alonso from PG&E Government Affairs for working with us. We have an issue at the new Corcoran Park that's being built as relates to powering that thing up and being able to move forward to plant grass and do the other things that park needs to get done. And the reason why that's so important is, as you know, it's attached, the Veterans Memorial is attached to that. And so as we're looking to unveil that memorial as soon as possible, a lot of that was hinged on how quickly this park could get powered up and get completed. So I want to thank him and PG&E. Thank you.
Good. Supervisor Verboen?
No county business report, just thankful to have surface water for the next 8 weeks and received it on Tuesday, started using it on Friday, so makes my life a lot easier. So thank you.
Good. Supervisor Peterson?
I'm good. Thank you.
I too want to thank everyone. Rusty was there handing out, delivering food. We had Ed Hill running pancake batter. Besides Supervisor Fagundes, we also had John Martin, Keith Fagundes, and my wife Kathy. And seemed like everything went well. And certainly want to thank everybody. We had plenty of plenty of shade, and we had plenty of water, and we had plenty of food. So that's all we need in my book. We hit all the high points. The Kings County Chambers got together with a mega mixer at the Hanford Civic and was well attended. I ended up winning 50 Corcoran bucks that I got to figure out how to spend. But I'm sure my wife, she's an overachiever when it comes to that direction. So I'm sure she'll figure it out. The South Fork GSA had a meeting on Thursday. We went ahead and adopted the 2022-23 budget. We also approved the $9.80 per acre assessment to support those activities in the next year. And we also looked at a new 218 election process as the current 218 assessment expires next year. So we went ahead and approved moving forward on a new 218 election. And then heard the update on the amendment to the sustainability plan, and everything's moving forward to have that submitted on July 27th. And then attended the Corcoran Farmers Market. Nice event, a lot of folks downtown. It was a beautiful evening, and then came back and went to the Rock in the Arbor in Lemoore. So that concluded the activities for me for the last week. Mr. Hill, you want to talk about correspondence, upcoming events, and future agenda items?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. For board correspondence, there is none for this week. For upcoming events, there will be a fireworks show on Saturday, June 25th at the Avenel Sports Complex. Gates will open at 7 p.m. There will be music, metal presentation, games, bounce houses, and more. The Kings County Historical Society will be hosting a barbecue presentation on railroad history at 6 p.m. on June 27th at the Historical Society Hall located at 14060 Hackett Street in Hanford. The barbecue chicken dinner is $10 per plate. The society will also provide a brief history of the development of the railroad in Kings County. The Sir Optimus International Club of Hanford will have its installation ceremony on Tuesday, June 28th at 6 p.m. at the Hanford Fraternal Hall located at 1015 North 10th Avenue. The new 2023 board will be presented while providing further information about their organization and how they make an impact on our community by providing women and girls access to education and training they need to become efficient and achieve economic empowerment. There will be a public safety appreciation luncheon hosted by the Greater Kings County Chamber and Chamber of Commerce and the Hanford Chamber of Commerce on August 10th at the Hanford Civic Auditorium at 400 North Dowdy Street. The event will take place at 12 p.m. and tickets are $20 each. Tickets can be purchased on Eventbrite or through the website at hanfordchamber.com. For upcoming agenda items, admin has 5 items: the defense of the accused agreements, consideration for an appointment to the Workforce Development Board, consideration to approve an agreement with the Kings County Commission on Aging to provide local match fund requirements for the adult daycare program, consideration to approve a third amendment to the agreement with Innovative Claim Solutions, and request for authorization to use ARPA funding for COVID-19 related payroll expenses. Behavioral Health has 3 items: consideration to approve a first amendment to an agreement with Kingsview for professional services for electronic health record systems, consideration to approve a second amendment to an agreement with Kingsview for mental health services, and consideration for an agreement with the California Mental Health Services Authority for psychiatric inpatient concurrent review program. The DA has consideration to approve an amendment with prosecutor by Carpel. Elections has consideration to accept the certified statement of votes for the June 7th statewide primary election. Finance has 3 items: request to authorize the finance director to make necessary end-of-year budget transfers, consideration to establish booking fee rate for fiscal year 2023, and consideration to approve a resolution establishing the appropriation limits for fiscal year 22-23. Fire has 1 item for consideration, an agreement with Okies Towing Truck Repair. Did I say that right? Okies Truck Towing. Health has 4 items: elite medical staffing amendment, Kaiser Permanente COVID-19 vaccine education grant, consideration for a professional service agreement with Dr. Teskey, and county update on COVID-19. Human Services has 4 items: county data sharing agreement with CalEd, consideration for an agreement with KCAO for child care resource and referral services, consideration for an agreement with KCAO for home visitation program services, and consideration for an amendment to agreement with West Hills Community College District. Probation has one item regarding pretrial services funding, Senate Bill 129. Public Works has two items, consideration to approve asphalt emulsion purchase for county roads project and consideration to approve a traffic paint purchase. As you can tell, that is the last the last meeting of the fiscal year, so it's going to be a busy calendar. Bring your lunch. That concludes my report. And I have-
Well, you guys are buying lunch. Hey,
Very good question. Yeah.
I don't know if I heard you wrong. Did you say Avenel fireworks show on the 27th?
That is 25th.
Oh, the 25th. Okay.
I may have said the 27th. I'm not sure. Okay.
Any other questions, comments, clarifications? Hearing none. There is one item under closed session, significant exposure to litigation. Any reportable action will be reported out on June 28th. So with that, if there are no other items to come before this board, the board will move into closed session and then adjourn out of closed session to our next regular scheduled meeting, which will be Tuesday, June 28th at 9 a.m. With that, thank you very much, everyone.